Mark Messier, one of the most revered and respected players in NHL history, after leading a Wayne Gretzky-less Oilers to the Stanley Cup in 1990 and breaking a 54-year drought by lifting the Holy Grail for the New York Rangers in 1994, he cemented his legacy as one of the greatest leaders in sports history. After his retirement in 2005, the NHL created the Mark Messier Leadership Award in his honor.
It's obviously very humbling to be here, giving out my own award.
I mean, who can hate this guy? Actually, a lot of people. The Flames because of the Battle of Alberta, the Devils because of the guarantee, the Stars because of attempted murder on Mike Modano, just to name a few.
See the eyes open. Oh, look at that!
However, there is one franchise and one fan base that rises above all else in their dislike for Mark Messier, and it doesn't just have to do with a rivalry or a hockey game. They are the Vancouver Canucks, and their hatred runs much, much deeper than big goals or decapitating elbows. This is love to hate. To understand why the Vancouver Canucks faithful hate Mark Messier, you have to go back to when the seeds of hatred were first planted. In the 80s, the Edmonton Oilers were a hockey machine, regularly embarrassing opponents with a display of offensive wizardry that had never been seen before or probably since. In an era where goals were no big deal, the Oilers were the measuring stick for offensive excellence. Gretzky, Curry, Anderson, Coffey, and of course, Mark Messier. But Messier was a little different than his Hall of Fame teammates. He wasn't a very nice guy to play against. In fact, he was kind of a dick.
That's vicious. That's a 5-minute penalty.
Case in point, January 18th, 1984. The Edmonton Oilers against, you guessed it, the Vancouver Canucks. Late in the third period with the Oilers leading, Mark Messier turns around and straight tomahawks future Canucks legend Tomas Gradin in the head for kind of holding him a little bit. Good lord, this is as vicious a stick swing as you're likely to find. The kind of infraction that would earn him a 10 or 20 game suspension in today's NHL. In 1984 though, he got 6 games. Gradin suffered a concussion as a result. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that the Canucks fans did not forget that. What Canucks fans definitely remember is the 1994 Stanley Cup Final. After years of being exceptionally mediocre, Vancouver put together a magical playoff run to make it all the way to the dance. Waiting for them, Mark Messier and the New York Rangers, the team of destiny for like the last 3 years.
I like Vancouver.
It's widely considered to be one of the best, if not the best, Cup final series of all time. In the closing seconds of Game 6, Mark Messier went full Mark Messier on beloved Canucks captain Trevor Linden. You might want to remember that name because I have a feeling it will come up again. The video doesn't pick it up, but with Linden already railroaded and barely making it back to his feet, Messier gives him a stone-cold cross-check for good measure. Again, you can't see it, but announcer Jim Robson's reaction gives you a pretty good indication of what went on here.
Messier hit Linden when he was down on his knees. The play is running down. It could get a bit ugly here in the late stages. Linden has struggled to the bench. Now he's at the bench talking to the trainer. I didn't see who hit him the first time, but Messier hit him when he was down the second time, and Sergio Momesso was really upset at the Vancouver bench.
In Game 7, Messier and the Rangers won the Stanley Cup, with Messier delivering the cup-clinching goal, at least on paper. The Canucks felt the pain that very few franchises have felt, losing in a Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. For the New York Rangers and their fans, the 1994 Stanley Cup was a moment in time that flies higher than any other moment in the history of their franchise, and they rode that tide for about a month, because in July, Cup-winning coach Mike Keenan left the team after a contract dispute with general manager Neil Smith. It was shocking to say the least. I mean, who's heard of a coach leaving a team 1 month after leading them to a Stanley Cup? But the real issue with this is how it affected the team, specifically its captain. In the 2 seasons that followed, the Rangers went right back to disappointing their fan base with consecutive convincing second-round playoff exits. 96-97 saw a reunion of epic proportion when Wayne Gretzky signed with the New York Rangers. After a couple of down years, the Rangers did make a deep run in the playoffs, but were ultimately eliminated in the Eastern Conference Final. For Messier, it was the first time in his Rangers tenure where he was clearly outshined by a teammate. On the other end of the continent, things weren't exactly going great in Vancouver either. After the run to the final, they also had consecutive early playoff exits, and heading into the summer of 1996, changes had to be made. In July, the Canucks were targeting then free agent Wayne Gretzky, and Gretzky was actually very interested. It seemed that the two sides had reached a verbal agreement that Gretzky would sign the following morning. However, Canucks owner John McCaw decided it would be for the best to give the greatest player of all time an ultimatum, declaring the offer to be now or never. So, Gretzky signed with the Rangers. The Canucks went on to have a dismal season, missed the playoffs, and really piss off Pavel Bure. The Gretzky angle is something I had to mention, because had the Canucks actually been patient and signed Gretzky, none of the crazy shit that followed would have ever happened. In 1997, Messier was a free agent, and it was all but a slam dunk that he would return to the Rangers. Except it somehow didn't happen. Messier felt disrespected by what he thought was a low-ball offer from the Rangers and slowly started looking elsewhere, the Northwest to be exact. The Canucks had completely ruined their shorts on the Gretzky deal the previous summer and were in danger of losing Pavel Bure, who had already demanded a trade or three. They felt the pressure to make a big move, and just like that, the hate turned into love in one swift motion as Mark Messier signed a 3-year, $20 million contract with the Vancouver Canucks. However, before he'd even played a single game as a Canuck, Messier started rubbing people the wrong way. Firstly, it was announced that he'd wear number 11, a number that the organization had quietly retired in honor of Wayne Mackey, a former player who had died in 1974 after being diagnosed with brain cancer. According to the Mackey family, no one in the Vancouver organization reached out to get their blessing or even discuss it with them in any capacity. In fact, the first time they learned about it was at Messier's introductory press conference. Yikes. A few years ago, it was revealed that Messier receiving the number 11 was part of his handwritten contract, which is not a good look. Then, fans would learn that Messier would be the new captain of the team, taking over responsibilities from fan favorite Trevor Linden. Now in this case, Linden has stated clearly that it was his decision to hand over the captaincy to Messier, but you can see how this looks bad following the number 11 gong show. Right out of the gate, the Canucks looked like a team that had no interest in winning hockey games. Early in the season, the Canucks visited Madison Square Garden in what promised to be an emotional evening for everyone except the Vancouver Canucks. The Rangers played a video of Mark Messier's greatest times as a Ranger, so the Canucks and their fans had to watch Messier cry his eyes out as the Rangers played videos of him beating up on the Canucks. It had become painfully obvious that Messier never wanted to leave New York, and his demeanor and on-ice play said exactly that. Vancouver continued to be awful, and with Messier in the driver's seat, some curious changes were made. First, Messier's soulmate Mike Keenan was brought in as head coach, and the team then traded Kirk McLean, Gino Ojic, and the face of the friggin' franchise, Trevor Linden. The worst part? None of it mattered. The Canucks finished dead last in the Western Conference.
'Cause they suck this year.
The remainder of Messier's tenure in Vancouver was just as big of a tire fire as that first season. They also ended up trading Pavel Bure to the Florida Panthers for Ed Jovanovski and a bunch of dudes you've never heard of. In a span of 15 months, that Canucks Cup core from '94 had been blown to pieces, and Mark Messier took a ton of heat for it. The team was hilariously awful after that, and managed to miss the playoffs for all 3 seasons Messier was there. And so, in 2000, 39-year-old Mark Messier was set to be a free agent. After averaging 17 goals, 38 assists, 54 points, and a -12 in 3 seasons, the worst 3-year stretch of his career to that point, Messier was gone and not a second too soon for Canucks fans, who at this point couldn't stomach the sight of him in a Vancouver uniform. Messier went back to the Rangers in the offseason, cried about never wanting to leave, and proceeded to score 24 goals and 67 points at age 40, further pissing off the city of Vancouver. 03-04 was Messier's last season. He finished his career as the second highest scorer in NHL history, behind, as always, Wayne Gretzky. And so, the love-hate, mostly hate relationship with the Canucks was over. Or so we thought, boys and girls, or so we thought. In 2012, as the memories of Messier in Vancouver were fading away and the Canucks were once again an NHL powerhouse, news broke that Messier had filed a grievance against the Canucks, citing that the team owed him money from his forgettable tenure. Imagine yourself a Canucks fan. Here's a guy who came into a team with winning pieces, demanded a number that was retired by the organization in honor of a deceased player, took the captaincy when it was offered up by Trevor Linden, brought in his buddy to coach the team, was instrumental in trading beloved players off the team, including the guy who gave him the captaincy, never helped the team win squat, all while playing the worst hockey of his entire life, and now he wants more money for the period of time that he did all those things. Yup, this is the stuff true hatred is made of. So what does everyone think? Are Canucks fans justified in their hatred for Messier? Or are they taking it too far? Comment below, let us know, and ring that bell for more NHL content. Or else I'll hate you and not love you.